In my own personal collection, I have a number of ultra-portable machines. Probably the Skywriter and the Rocket are the two most practical ultra-portables. And I've used them out and about, both around town and, of course, on the road. But like all ultra-portable typewriters, they're going to be a little noisy in certain public environments. It's just intrinsic to the manual typewriter. They're going to make some noise. So depending on where you're at, depending on your physical environments, the context of the place you're at, you might find even the quietest ultra-portable typewriter might not be quiet enough. And so we come to the subject once again of thermal typewriters. The thing that happened to me when I started getting into thermal typewriters with the Brother EP20 at first was I considered thermal paper to be an exotic material, difficult to acquire locally, something you had to order offline, hard to find in the sizes or formats that you really prefer. And it seemed like regular paper and cloth ribbons were just much more easy to acquire, much more practical. And I kind of lived with that notion for a while. Of course, I first acquired some thermal fax paper in letter width, 8.5 inch wide, online. An online seller was selling these Brother rolls, 2 rolls in a pack, and I was happy with that, but I figured I had to order it from a certain seller online. It was kind of dependent upon this online commerce. It was kind of an exotic material, at least in my mind. Well, then something weird happened a week or two ago is I started looking around town, and I was surprised to learn that thermal fax paper is actually easier to acquire locally than typewriter ribbons. And that totally blew my mind. It totally changed my viewpoint about thermal typewriters. You know, you might think that cloth typewriter ribbons are a pretty common commodity in the world of typewriters, and they are if you're ordering them online, but surprisingly, what I find is unless you have a local typewriter repair shop who sells ribbons, you're going to be hard-pressed to find cloth typewriter ribbons in the universal spools locally. I've noticed at the Staples stores, this is a big box office supply retailer in the United States, Staples will intermittently have an Oki Data printer ribbon that is essentially a nylon 1/2 inch ribbon and a universal spool. But that's really about it. Thinking about this, it seems like actually typewriter ribbons are the thing that I'm mostly dependent on internet commerce for. And why is that important? Let's just say for the sake of argument that you had these two machines and you needed ribbon and thermal paper and you needed them today, and you couldn't order them online and get them today. You had to go out into your community and get, in this case, a ribbon and paper, and in this case, thermal paper. Which would be easier to find? Certainly you can get regular paper anywhere. You can find regular paper in gas stations, you know, convenience stores that have a little office supply school section. They at least sell filler paper. So you can get the regular paper anywhere. But like I say, cloth typewriter ribbons, they're not that easy to find locally. But I was really surprised to learn that at least at my local Staples store, just about every one of my Staples stores in Albuquerque has one of these, a box of 6 rolls of letter width thermal fax paper. And it just blew me away. You mean to tell me that thermal fax paper is actually more commonly available locally than cloth typewriter ribbons? That's ridiculous, but actually it's true. This is the Brother paper, and it's quite a bit thicker. The Staples brand paper is definitely thinner paper, has a thin feel to it. What I notice is it doesn't look as dark as the Brother paper, and it looks like I'm already seeing a little bit of evidence right up here of some rubbing on the paper, producing some dark smudges, as it does happen with thermal paper because it is pressure sensitive also. So when I do the calculation to figure out the cost per sheet of each of these rolls. I'm making it equivalent to 8.5 by 11 inch sheets. They're 8.5 inch wide and 98 feet long. This comes in a pack of 2. This comes in a pack of 6. The 2 packs of the thicker Brother paper that you get online is like 5.8 cents per letter sheet. And the Staples brand fax paper I get locally is about 5 cents per letter sheet. So it's cheaper for this thinner paper that doesn't quite print quite as dark. Now, there is one reason that I actually do like the thinner Staples brand thermal paper rolls over the thicker Brother brand, and that is because if you're out and about carrying your thermal typewriter in a little bag, you only have a limited amount of room to carry a roll of paper, and if you can see the difference in diameter between these two, meaning less of a bulge in a carrying pouch, it just makes it more convenient to carry. The use case that I keep finding most compelling for any kind of ultra-portable mobile typing setup is that it enables you to find those creative moments out and about. I think I thrive better creatively when I'm typing in certain environments away from home that just inspire me. I don't find myself being distracted as much when I'm sitting in a coffee shop or a cafe by the surrounding noise of people and the busyness of things going on in those kind of environments. I think what does inhibit my creativity, though, is my self-consciousness when I am in those environments. And for that reason, I do find the quieter machines certainly give me less problems with self-consciousness, and it frees me up to just create. I type something out and about. It's oftentimes a rough piece, a first draft, maybe free-form writing, brainstorming, things like that. And so in the context of those kinds of mobile scenarios, the fact that this locally available thermal fax paper is maybe lower quality, it's thinner paper, it doesn't make quite as dark of an imprint, and it might be a little more sensitive to smudges. The availability of this paper locally makes it such that my whole mental process is different now. It frees up my mind to be able to use the paper to just brainstorm this free-form, open-ended kind of creativity. I'm not wasting precious, valuable, rare paper anymore in my mind. It's just readily available paper, easy to get locally. That restriction in my mind is now done, it's gone, and I can just be free to write however I want to write with my thermal typewriters. So in the context of this free-form, stream of consciousness, brainstorm kind of writing that is so well suited to these ultra-portable typewriters, what really helps me to start off with is roll paper really helps. Roll paper is ultimately suited to stream of consciousness writing because you don't have to stop to change out the sheet. Right in the middle of your best thinking, boom, you run out of paper. Got to stop, put the new paper in, get it lined up, and then by then the thought that you had is half gone, right? So that's what I love about this. I was typing this piece last week on the TypeStar. I didn't have to worry at all about how long I went, how many lines, how many paragraphs, how many pages. I just kept writing until I was done. No restrictions, okay? So first of all, roll paper is, I think, better suited for freeform writing than sheets of paper, and coincidentally, we can easily get rolls of fax paper locally. So the other thing I find that's really helpful, if you want to get into that mindset of freeform writing, is I usually start out by trying to write something that is already structured, just to get into the mode of writing, the mechanics of it. And it could be as simple as take your favorite book or take a magazine article or take a little essay that someone else wrote, bring it with you and sit down and just start copying it on your typewriter. And what that'll do is that'll help kind of free up your thinking process. It'll free up the mechanics of your fingers working with the machine to the point where there will be a certain point where all of a sudden, now that the language center of your brain is more exercised now and kind of awakened, all of a sudden you'll be able to jump into this free-form writing. Thoughts will start coming to you. So really kind of greasing the skids, priming the pump. Start by writing out, just typing out
some other previously written work to help you start in on it. But that really helps me to prime the pump for a very creative freeform writing session. Now, clearly, not every freeform writing session is a masterwork of the literary arts. A lot of it, for me, is just private journal writing. Typewritten journal is what I call it. And it'll end up going into a notebook somewhere, and I can go back and read through it. But in the case of this that I wrote last week, there are a number of things that I was just writing about that are going to end up being possibly future blog articles or even future videos for this channel. A lot of things end up getting dumped into these impromptu typings that end up being the source material for other creative works, and that's what I think is so valuable about it. When I sit down in my office here at a typewriter, like I have on my typing table over here is my Olivetti Underwood 21, I'm not necessarily inspired to just write something right now. And that's why, for me, a lot of times the stimulation, the visual and oral stimulation of going to a public venue like a coffee shop or cafe really does open up my mind for all these possibilities of freeform creativity. It brings me into a new environment where my mind is stimulated and the thoughts can start to flow. So that's why I like ultra portable typewriters, and that's why these thermal typewriters are eminently suitable for that particular application. Well, I hope you guys stay creative and have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.